Enthusiasts are no stranger to road trips. We are more than willing to travel for hours for some chances at new credits, unique rides, and our favorite roller coasters. That being said, there are plenty of specific clusters of parks that make for some amazing road trips. So this week we'll look to map out some of the best in the United States. Here are the best coaster road trips. Let's move in order from longest to shortest. First up is some Midwest mayhem, starting in Silver Dollar City, then Worlds of Fun, followed by Six Flags St. Louis, Holiday World, and finally Kentucky Kingdom. This stretch would add a solid 769 miles to your car's odometer, and a respectful 34 coaster credits. There aren't many other parks in the area, so you can't really add additional parks at the end. Now, every one of these trips will have some top tier rides, and the Midwest have some fun ones for sure. Storm Chaser, Lightning Run, Voyage, Boss, Mamba, Outlaw Run, and Time Traveler, plus more can be found on this stretch. Now, this is not a slouch of rides by any means, but it's not quite as strong as some of the other ones that'll come later. Looking at national headlining rides, I think it's really Voyage and Time Traveler with some very solid next tier rides. It's really the uniqueness of Time Traveler that is something that many enthusiasts have no issue traveling for, and Voyage is perhaps a top 2, if not best, wooden roller coaster in the country. Now, this run misses that true volume park like Cedar Point or Magic Mountain, and it's focused more around these smaller regional parks that have a very unique charm to them. Next up is the smallest trip in number of parks, but at a very solid 464 miles, we have the Southern Triangle, going from Carowinds to Dollywood and ending up at Six Flags Over Georgia. This is a big park trip for sure. 14 credits from Carowinds, 9 at Dollywood, and 10 from Six Flags Over Georgia for a strong 33 credits, nearly matching the 34 from 5 parks in the last trip. Now, speaking of headliners, this is quite a run. A top 3 of Fury 325, Lightning Rod, and either Goliath or Twisted Cyclone supply about as much airtime and quality as you'll find in 3 different parks. Now, the consensus best Giga Coaster in the world, a top 3 US RMC, and either a top tier B&M Hyper or another quality RMC. The other thing is most of these other rides are really high quality as well. Besides the bottom half of Carowinds, there are an abundance of quality supporting rides for the number of parks. Now, this trip, unlike the Midwest, has some smaller parks in the area you could add if you wanted. Lake Winnipesaukee sports 3 credits, including a classic wooden coaster, Cannonball, and then you have Alabama's Adventure, which is a bit out of the way with 2 credits, including the CCI Rampage. The other 2 parks raise the trip to 624 miles, which may be a little too much for only 5 additional credits, and really only 2 of those 5 being anything significant. Moving on, we have a personal favorite of mine, the Ohio Swing. Cedar Point, Kings Island, and Kennywood. 2 of the absolute best coaster parks in the world, and a great old school feeling park with standout attractions. Obviously, you have Cedar Point with its 17 roller coasters, but Kings Island rolls out another 14 of its own, and finally Kennywood has a modest 8 credits. A total of 39 coasters in 3 parks is pretty insane, and it runs a modest 389 miles. Starting in Kennywood, Phantom's Revenge is renowned as an airtime machine, and it's supported by the new for 2019 North American Inversion Champ Steel Curtain, as well as 3 94-plus-year-old wooden roller coasters. Speaking of wooden rides, Kings Island sports the most wooden track in the world with its 4 wooden roller coasters, including the world's longest in Beast, and one of the best GCIs in Mystic Timbers. Throw in the new for 2020 B&M Giga Orion and the world's longest invert in Banshee, or even the Hyper Diamondback, and you have a hell of a collection. Then there's the Roller Coast. Cedar Point hits you with a top-end lineup featuring the consensus world's best roller coaster, and the Hyper Hybrid Steel Vengeance, which is then backed up by the likes of Maverick, Millennium Force, Top Thrill Dragster, Raptor, Magnum XL200, Gatekeeper, and Valraven. The park's record for breaking records is well documented, and any one of these rides could be a bucket list attraction for any enthusiast who hasn't made it to the park yet. To add to the solid trio, a park like Waldameer can be added for the small price of 105 miles. Go snag a ride on Ravine Flyer 2 and the other 4 coasters to raise the credit count to 44. Parks like Camden Park, Lakemont Park, and Conneaut Lake Park are also in reach if you're willing to go the distance for some less stellar collections. Now moving east, we got the Philly Special with some New York thrown in. Ride 334 miles for 8 parks, starting at Hershey, moving to Knoebels, Dorney, Great Adventure, Nickelodeon Universe, and ending up at the historic pair of Luna Park and Dino's Wonder Wheel. Credits? How does 56 sound? You want some historic and record-breaking attractions? Get on the original Cyclone, the world's only wooden bobsled and flying turns, 97-year-old Thunderhawk, the world's first B&M floorless coaster, the first GCI, the world's tallest and second fastest roller coaster, the world's steepest roller coaster, and North America's only prefabricated wooden roller coaster. Throw in rides like Jersey Devil, Phoenix, Nitro, Steel Force, Candemonium, Skyrush, and Stormrunner. The depth is insane, and I still haven't mentioned things like the 3 different B&M inverts. Now this is my home area, and they really have some substantial rides. As for the tack-on parks, there's the entire Jersey Boardwalk circuit, which could be its own weekend swing as well. Then there's parks further north. Legoland New York opens in 2022, and Six Flags New England is about an hour and a half from NYC, and they sport an insane top 2 of Wicked Cyclone and Superman the Ride. Staying on the East Coast, we check in with the Mid-Atlantic Chain Taster, with Six Flags America, Kings Dominion, and Busch Gardens Williamsburg, 31 credits and 172 miles for these 3 different chain parks. A bit of a weaker pool when looking at the quantity that surrounds it, but Pantheon, Intimidator 305, Twisted Timbers, and Superman are certainly a great set of rides. Throw in rides like Alpengeist, Griffin, Dominator, and Apollo's Chariot as some B&M support, and this pool makes for one of the shortest quality trips out there. Busch Gardens is one of the most beautiful parks to be in, and even Six Flags America gets a little bit too much hate. Kings Dominion's rumored wing coaster is another boost this park could be getting as well and make this trip even better. Unfortunately, outside of Ocean City, Maryland and the Jersey Boardwalks, the additional parks end at Adventure Park USA with only 3 extra credits. That being said, it isn't overly far from all the Pennsylvania and Jersey parks mentioned earlier, and still houses some high-end thrill coasters. Now thrown into the West Coast, we have the Southern California Paradise. Starting at the park with the most roller coasters in the world, we have Six Flags Magic Mountain, and moving south to Universal Studios Hollywood, Knott's Berry Farm, 2 Disney parks, and ending down at SeaWorld San Diego. 42 coasters, but to be fair, Universal and Disney are more about the immersion in the parks than the coaster counts. Now Magic Mountain, like Cedar Point, is a road trip basically in of itself, throwing X2, Twisted Colossus, Tatsu, West Coast Racers, and Full Throttle at the top of its lineup. Knott's has Accelerator and Ghost Rider to add to the mix, as well as a full slate of very unique supporting rides. Having coasters like Matterhorn Bobsleds, Space Mountain, Montezuma's Revenge, and Journey to Atlantis just keeps it from getting boring. This is another trip that can stack additional stops. The California Boardwalk has plenty of seaside rides, Legoland California is on the way to San Diego, and if you really want to do the extra driving, add in North Cali or Las Vegas rides. Now, as is, the strip of parks will only take 156 miles for one of the best clusters of parks out there. Finally, we end in perhaps the theme park city or state of the world, with some Florida immersion. Starting in Tampa at Busch Gardens and moving east onto 4 Disney World parks, then SeaWorld Orlando, and finally the 2 Universal parks. Now around 2025, we can also expect the 3rd Universal theme park, Epic Universe, to debut. This stretch, as the name would suggest, is more about the experience and immersion than pure thrill rides, but these are some world-class parks. With a decent 34 credits, this really lacks the pure quantity of coaster credits. However, thanks to the quality of rides like Iron Gwazi, Montu, Expedition Everest, and Velocicoaster, it will scratch that itch you really need to get. The big draw here is the small 100-mile driving rate. On top of that, you can add in 2 Fun Spot parks and Legoland for an additional 11 credits, as well as the host of smaller independent parks around the Central Florida area. Adding just the Fun Spot parks for 7 credits only adds 4 miles to the trip. This stretch, similar to Cali, really caters to every level of enthusiast, as well as families through teens. Catch the safari and extreme coasters at Busch Gardens, or let your inner kid out at Disney, and dive into some of the biggest pop culture lands at Universal. Now for the true coaster freaks like me, I ran the numbers on coaster credits per mile. Using the standard trips I laid out without the add-ons, here's how it really shook out. In nearly the same order, you have the Midwest Mayhem at 22.6 miles per credit, then the Southern Triangle at 13, followed by the Ohio Swing at 10. The top 4 is Philly Special at 6 miles per credit, then Mid-Atlantic Chain Taster with 5.5, Southern California Paradise at a mini 3.7 miles per credit, and finally number 1 is Florida at 2.9 or 2.5, depending if you include the Fun Spot parks. Bang for your gas for sure. Of course, there are plenty of different ways to break up or combine road trips. Kings Island and Kennywood could have been moved, and a combination of the Philly Special and Mid-Atlantic could easily top almost everything else here. I completely left off Canada's Wonderland and Darien Lake, as well as the Texas parks as well. So what's a road trip that you think needs to be mentioned more, and what's the favorite trip you've taken or you have planned? Let me know below and feel free to subscribe for more coaster content. Next week, expect some Six Flags Over Texas videos, and check out Island Coasters on Instagram for daily coaster content, especially for those upcoming trips. Till next week, that's all from the shores of Island Coasters.